Welcome to the Drop In with Pindi podcast from Warriors TMA Academy, a podcast for everyone from business inspirational leaders, combat sports enthusiasts, martial artists, and fitness fans. Together, we can build our self-discipline, confidence, and positive mindsets through great leaders. Now, here's your host, coach and former pro fighter, Pindi Matahar.
Here we are, ladies and gents. Thank you very much for logging on to the Drop In with Pindi podcast. We are here. I'm delighted to have as my guest today the Indian body coach, Mr. Juggy Sidhu, everyone. So today we have the privilege of hearing the stories from Juggy himself to where he is today, how he has influenced and changed so many people's lives for the better, not just from a physical aspect of things, but also more importantly, from the mental aspect of things, and psychologically helping so many people out there to become a better version of themselves. And I'm right in saying that, again, there's a lot of people out there suffering with anxiety issues and mental health and depression and everything. And I can assure you one thing: by the end of this podcast, you'll be feeling so much better. Hopefully, having the tools and the drive and the energy to get up and be like, yes, I've got the attitude now to become a better version of myself. But Juggy, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, because I see it online with everything you do. It's unbelievable. So I appreciate you taking the time out to come along here to be on the podcast and to share your stories and your mindset and your thoughts with us all. So thank you so much for coming along.
Pindi, what an introduction, man.
Thank you.
I need to live up to that now, bro.
Oh, trust me. I promise you, all the audience will be listening out there knowing by the end of it of everything. But Juggy, before we get into right now what you're doing with the Indian body coach, because that's just unbelievable. All the stuff I've been following you for years, even before the Indian body coach. So, but to see it now is like, wow. Because I remember when you had the slight idea of what you wanted to do. I think it was about 2016, 17ish. But to see that little idea you had to become this big thing, what it is now, is unbelievable. But we were just having literally, I wish we had recorded on about 5 minutes ago, because we had such an energetic conversation earlier. But I think with myself and Juggy, we've always been in the sporty environment. We've had two different roles, in the sense where two different sports, shall I say, and we've kind of, I didn't realize this, but we've kind of gone through a similar thing in the sense of how we wanted our body to portray, and how, like, similar things to how we are right now in our mindsets right now. And I don't know if that's an age thing or we're just getting older. I don't know what it is, bro, but I think it's mature. I think we're getting more mature with it, with ourselves. But before all of that, Juggy, where did it all start for you? Let's hear about your journey from young Juggy to where you are now. Like, what was it that motivated you to not necessarily go down the health route, but what was it that motivated you to be, this is what I want to do one day? Or where did it all start from? Let's hear it.
Do you know what? It was only on reflection, probably about five years ago now, that I realized where it actually stemmed from. And it was, when I was younger, and still today, my dad's my hero, right? Yeah. And I think we can all relate to that. Our dads are our heroes.
Absolutely.
And from my perspective, I saw my dad peak health, always playing football, very, very energetic, very healthy. Used to come home from, work, mark our homework, take us in the garden. We used to play football pretty much every evening.
Nice.
And I just saw his health deteriorate a little bit when I was about 9-10 years old. Okay. And he was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. Right. And what we actually saw at that point was that kind of led back to stress. So a lot of the stress that he was experiencing at that time, and not psychological stress, but man, he was getting up in the morning, driving down to Oxford, working there, coming back in the evening. So that means he started his day at like 3:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Drive down, be there for work, work a full day, come back. And when my dad works, it wasn't about just getting through the day and ticking the boxes. He's got that mindset that he's always going to outperform everyone else around him. Yeah, and it's not a competition thing. I think that's his mindset to say
He has to be.
yeah, like this, this is the role that I'm going to do. I'm always going to do it to the very best of my ability. I'm always going to put in that extra 10%.
Yeah.
And I've seen that with him, and hopefully I've taken that work ethic from him.
Just about to say that's where you get it from. That's where you
That's
get
where
it
that
from.
drive
Yeah,
is
yeah.
from, man. But I've seen him do it, and he's gone through far more difficult, situations than I've gone through. He's opened all the doors for me to make my life easy. We're in, relatively easy, right?
Of course.
But yeah, he would come home, mark, it's like literally take the time. He's just in like a 15, 16 hour day already. Take the time to mark all of our homework. Yeah. Wow. Take the time to go and do sports with us in the garden. Take us to different football classes and whatever it might be. And then he would do night school. Wow. Yeah. So he would go and learn a new skill. So when I was born in the 80s, late 80s.
yeah, not giving away the age.
He was a taxi driver, and now he's a project manager. So he's gone from being a taxi driver all the way through this kind of like, transition to being a project manager, but it's all been hard work. And eventually the stress took control, stress took over. And that for me, I saw him.
Because it's physically demanding, right? It's
physically demanding, like not being able to sleep properly. You imagine the stress that you're going through, having 3 kids as well, like older sister, older brother, then me as the youngest. And then having to look after me as a kid. But like he's gone through all these things. And then
of course,
I think from that perspective, I saw his health obviously deteriorate and everything in the household changed. So my mum started cooking differently. My mum started making like sugar-free stuff. We were looking at what we were buying in the weekends. We weren't drinking fizzy drinks anymore. And I think like subconsciously that had an impact on me because it made me realize the value of health and well-being. And also the value of the things that we put into our body and the way that we look after ourselves. So if you see what I'm talking about today, it aligns exactly to that.
From that period in time. And how that you're talking, that was what, early 90s, mid 90s?
Yeah, I would say so. So I was about 9, 10 years old at the time. But these things you don't consciously think about every day, but they're just happening subconsciously, happening around you. Your environment's starting to change. And your environment shapes you massively. The conversations changed. I remember we used to go on little runs as a family on the weekends. Yeah, and that for me was huge. But I even take it back to my baba. When my baba was like, he used to play volleyball in the garden with us. Even in his like 70s and 80s, on the day he passed away, he was doing the gardening in the garden. He never stopped.
He's always, wow. There you go. So it's a genetic thing, really. You know what I mean? It's been passed down.
I think so. I think it's that mindset towards health and well-being has always been there. I think obviously it had to go in a negative place for my dad for it to become more of a prominent thing in our minds.
Yes, that's right. And that would you say, I know this, as bad as this may sound, but it comes down to that saying, in every negative situation in life that happens, there's always a positive outcome from there. So
100%.
as hard as this was for you guys going through this with your dad, the positive out of it is making you all realize that, hang on a minute, this is where we need to start changing things up now and looking forward rather than back almost. So that's a deep story to hear, the fact that you guys had to go through that to come out the other end of it almost. But linked with all of that, so you're growing up as a teenager. Obviously, you've gone to school, you like obviously college and uni and all of that side of it. Where was it? Because you've achieved hell of a lot in the sport world after uni and everything. Is that something that's you've always wanted to kind of go down that route, or were you guided like a lot of Indians are? Get uni, get a degree, get a job, and get married, and that's it. Job done. Your life is complete almost. Or
do you know what? So my dad didn't get the opportunity to go to university when he was younger. He could have, he's a very, very intelligent guy, but he just didn't get the opportunity to do so at that time. Married by 19. My mom was married at 17. So it's that generation, right? So I don't think we were ever told you need to go to university or you need to get good grades. But I always had this competitive spirit. So my brother's really clever. I'm not going to lie, my brother's super intelligent. So is my sister. So my thoughts were, in my mind, the youngest in the family, I need to outdo everyone, Of
course.
So, best GCSE results in Coventry, same with A-levels, and then go to university. And I'm going to talk to you openly about my studies at university. I experienced anxiety and depression at university, and it was the hardest point of my life. There's so many different factors, right? So many different factors that play into that. So I'd say the first thing was when my baba passed away.
Okay.
no idea how to handle grief.
So it's
Who-
yeah.
Yeah, nobody teaches you how to handle grief.
True.
All you see is somebody will have a drink, maybe pick up a bottle or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was my experience. That was what I saw around me. So that's what I emulated. But I was away at university for the first time.
Wow.
So you've got all this freedom that you've never had in your life before. You don't know what to do with it all.
Of course.
So for me, and again, I felt really out of place at university. Like I was already putting a mask on
Yeah.
to try and be somebody that I wasn't,
Yeah.
to try and fit in to my surroundings.
Understand.
And I think that had a profound impact on the way I felt about myself, because I was conflicted.
Yeah.
So then that led down this path of depression, anxiety. And then there was always this thought process in my mind that, you know, you got to get a degree, you got to get a good job, you got to get married at a certain age, car, house, all that sort of stuff.
Of course.
And there was that timeline, and I wasn't actually aligned to the timeline that had been built into my head from a very young age.
Yeah.
So I was always going to be late to do what I wanted to do.
Sure.
And that grew the depression, that grew the anxiety. I turned to alcohol. It was a really negative place in my life, bro. And for me, that, you know, I know that wasn't the question that was asked.
No. But
I think this is vitally important to discuss, right?
Linked with that is you're 100% right, because this is what I was saying at the beginning as well. There's a lot of people out there, and right now we're in an era in 2021 where there's a lot of people going through this right now. Unfortunately, the world has seen the worst situation there has been in about 100 years, in the sense of this pandemic that we've all just witnessed. But there's a lot of people that have suffered from this, and there's now a lot of people that are at home, anxious. Yes, okay, there's a green light now to start getting out and doing things and looking forward, but there's still a lot of people that are thinking, hang on, no, I don't feel comfortable with doing that.
Yeah.
A lot of people's mental health has been affected by this. And I don't know the actual figure, so please don't quote me on this, but I know, like, even the GPs out there, it's at the highest of the amount of depression pills that are going out right now. And you know, it's really, it's sad to hear that the world is going through this, and obviously the nation's going through this as well. But I think I appreciate you opening up like that, Juggy, but it's important that people realize we're all in this together. Does that make sense? And we're all going to come out of this together as well. And I think when people hear this, they're going to be inspired to be like, right, this is how, look where you are right now, but you've been through this, and look how you've come out the other end from it. Does that make sense? So if you're cool with, like, explaining how you
like to talk. Yeah, well, I'm happy to talk about all of this, because and I know we share this value. If
of course
we can help that one person, it's going to have a profound impact on them. Then I'd rather talk about these things and be open about it and share.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So going through that at university, because I was going through depression and anxiety, I didn't understand what was going on around me. My parents were trying to help me, my brother was trying to help me, my sister was trying to help me, and I was rejecting them and pushing them all away. Right. So suddenly I felt like the most isolated guy in the world. And I felt that my whole life was pretty worthless. I felt like I was a burden to everyone. And people need to know this, because I know other people experience this too.
Yes.
And from me at that time, I literally did push everyone away. I went and moved away, and I was actually making my own situation so much harder to deal with by not accepting the support, not having the open conversations, not actually telling people what I was feeling and experiencing.
Because you were keeping everything trapped inside, right?
Yeah, and I didn't. And do you know what, man? Like, if we go back 10, 12 years when all this happened, or beyond that, actually, I'm saying 14, 15 years when all this happened for me, well, actually, who was talking about mental well-being at that time? Who in our community was talking about mental health? What Indian, person out there was actually opening up? And that's part of the reason why I like talking about this today, is because I didn't have anyone to look up to, and I didn't have anyone telling their story and sharing their narrative and giving people the tools to actually come out of it.
Yes.
And that's why I'm so grateful that you asked me the question that made me go down that thought process of this is what happened.
Because in our society, I know it's a cultural thing as well, but there's a lot of people that are actually suffering through the same thing outside of the culture as well, because would you say it's a man thing, a male thing? Like, we're not allowed to show our emotions. We have to keep everything intact. We're not allowed to express, and we've been classed as the big, strong guys. And does that make sense? It's almost like a false image at times, isn't it? So
well, no, I relate to that, because I was wearing a mask all the way through university, and then wearing this mask all the way through,
Yeah.
you know, going through depression, anxiety, not COVID mask.
Yeah. No, yeah.
But just this thought process that I had to be a certain way and had to act a certain way, and I need to achieve certain things, and if I don't, then I'm a failure, and then that would just compound these feelings. But you know what I did, and I was kind of forced to do actually, because my mom was like not giving up on me. And I wanted her to give up on me, but my mom did not give up on me once. Yeah. Right. She would come and pick me up and drive me to a psychologist or a psychiatrist and all these different people. And I used to just like tick the boxes. Yeah, I'm fine. And then one day I saw this psychologist and he asked me a question and I just broke down.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. It was the right person at the right time that asked the right question.
Yes.
And it all just came out. And he was like, yeah. Okay. And now I understand.
Now he understands where you're coming.
Yeah. But for me as well, I didn't know what depression and anxiety meant.
Back then, it wasn't as, not saying it's a massive thing. Well, it is a massive thing, but back then it wasn't talked about.
Well, social media wasn't around really back then, was it? Is that the birth of it?
I think that was the era when Facebook was just, for me anyway. That was Facebook, wasn't it? That was coming out. Yeah. So. Yeah, social media was low. Yeah, so it was around that time. Yeah, it's tough, man. That would have been. But in terms of like, if you going back a few steps, you're saying your mum never gave up on you there. Not saying your family did, but what did the rest of the family? Would they kind of respecting your decision to stay away, give you space, kind of not
knew what the hell to do with me, man. Yeah. To be honest, I think. Yeah. Like my brother was always there, my sister was always there.
Were they quite aggressive towards you in that sense, like trying to snap you out?
I don't think so. I just think it was like, it was so weird for them because like my brother said something to me once. There was a TV show back in the day, Skins, and there was a character called Cook, and he was an absolute idiot. Yeah. And he goes to my brother said to me, "Oh, you remind me of Cook," and I took that as a good way, like I'm party animal and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And he was like, "Yeah, I don't mean that in a good way." Yeah. That broke me inside. It probably broke me inside. But at the same time, like that was him trying to say to me, "Juggy, this isn't you. You're not being yourself." Because obviously he's grown up with me. He's seen me as a normal, normal kid. He's seen me grow up and be happy and energetic and confident and all that sort of stuff. And all of that.
Intelligent with school and all of that. Yeah, doing great stuff with school and now going to college and now uni. And now in uni, that's where it's gone. Boom.
Yeah. So would
you say? Sorry to interrupt. Would you say you were dealing with or trying to deal with grief? Would you say a part of that is you've been surrounded by such a lovely family all your life, and it's the first time you're actually experiencing? Boom, you're away from your family, feel a bit not homesick, but it's that first break away from the family almost. Would you say it is kind of like a build up of dealing with a different life almost?
It's definitely an amalgamation of different things that were going on there. It's like multifaceted reasons for why was I feeling that way. I think leaving that really secure family environment and going and live in a different city, I genuinely say to people now, if you're like 18 years old, you're probably not ready to go and experience university life, and you're probably not going to go and get the most out of the opportunities that
university should offer.
Like if I went back to university now to study, it would be a completely different thought process, and I'll be taking way more out of the experience than you do at 18, because you go at 18 and everyone tells you it's time to party, it's time to
drink,
100%. And I wasn't ready for that, and I would say I lived a fairly sheltered upbringing, like lived in a nice area, go to a nice school, go play football Tuesdays and Thursdays, get dropped off, get picked up, go play football on Sunday, and that was it. That was my social life, So I wasn't ready for it. But that's, there's no one to blame for that. It's just how it is. And the focus was education, of course. So go and get good grades, and that's what I did.
And you did that. So what was the trigger point? So you saw your psychologist, you opened up to him or her.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize, boom, this is it now? I need to not snap out of this, but I need to manage this, start talking now, start expressing how I am with loved ones around me at the time, because obviously this is the time before you were married, so you can't, it's different when you're married because you can express to your partner and everything, but it's the time before marriage. So what was that trigger point for you to be like, right, boom?
Well, do you know what, man? I think it was that moment where I kind of walked out that psychologist's office one day, And it sounds almost like cliche, but in my mind, it got to a point where I was walking, I was thinking, there's literally a fork in the road here. There's a fork in the road, and I can take it that way, and it's going to end up horribly for everybody, or I can take it this way, and this is me taking control of my life and making the most of it. And I just chose, well, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to be honest, man, there's always ups and downs. There's always things that happen in life.
Of course.
But it's, even now, I think of it as that fork in the road. And I teach this to my clients as well.
Brilliant.
I get them to actually physically write this out as a diagram.
Okay.
You sit there, you write out a diagram.
Yeah.
You say, well, this is what happens if I go this way.
Yeah.
And get really clear with it and be honest with yourself. So if I go this way, I'm going to be drinking all the time. I'm going to be upset all the time. I'm going to be lonely. I'm not going to be able to talk to anybody. I'm not going to be able to communicate. If I go this way, I'm going to learn from my mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to see them as lessons for growth. I'm going to use that growth to then propel me forwards to that next stage of my life.
Absolutely.
We've all got that choice.
Yes.
Every single day we've got that choice.
Yeah.
And it's just understanding that.
Absolutely. So that is, in one way, this refers back to what I was saying. In every negative situation that happens in your life, we all can't see it at the time, but there's always going to be a positive outcome that you can always reference back to. And like you just said, you hit the nail on the head right there. X amount of years later, you're still referring back to that one negative period in your life because I'm sure you can admit you never want to go back there because you don't want to be going through that again because you're in such a much better place right now. Now, that's a beautiful thing to understand and kind of have the mindset to realize that. And it's great to see you finally, not finally, but it's great to see you on the other end now educating that back to your clients.
Yeah. 100%.
So it's good. So that was uni life for you, yeah?
Yeah.
After uni, what was Juggy Sidhu up to after that?
So you know what? So this is where I went through that time in my life where I was like, well, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
How do I want to help people? So I've got a degree in nutrition, performance nutrition.
Okay.
And that's what I love nutrition. I love biochemistry. I love physiology. I love all these different elements of it. But most people don't need to know the amount of knowledge that I've got to move forwards and progress. So I was like, okay, so what are people really struggling with? So then it became that combination of the two. People want to know how to train, but realistically, if you get the most out of training, you need to know about your nutrition. 100%. You need to know about your health, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's why I said, okay, I'll be a personal trainer. Yes. So I was working with people one-to-one. And then I also started to decide, actually, I want to make sure that my physique is something to be, inspired by, for people to be saying to me, actually, I want to look like that. So absolutely. I went and took my physique to absolute extremes, right?
This is where you went into bodybuilding.
Bodybuilding.
Right? Yeah, this is where I think this is the period I started meeting, like I first met you as well.
Yeah.
20, am I right in saying 2011, 2012 era? Or was it around that era?
So,
Yeah.
So
that's where I first met you.
Yeah.
And then we started training about 15, 16.
A little bit later, yeah.
Absolutely, no. So this is where you would see the most chiseled man in Britain. It was like insane, the shape you got in. Obviously, we're going to hear about the stories, but that was an extreme. But you were what, 17 stone? 16,
I got
17?
to like 16 stone.
16 stone. The guy was... I'm going to get a picture. Manny, just make sure at this point, you put a picture on this point, because the picture of you is incredible. Like, you had fucking footballs as shoulders. you had like abs coming out of abs. It was just ridiculous. So your fat percentage would have been like, what, 3-4%? If that
it was low, man. It's definitely low, single digits. But look, I went through that period, man. That first few years, it was just so normal. It was easy. I was so regimented, so disciplined. By the way, I just got married at this point, Oh, wow. So just his introduction to marriage was actually, Juggy's going to be a bodybuilder now, and he's going to be really intense about it,
How did the in-laws take that?
Because they're all from like a wrestling background. So
really?
They get the discipline.
Perfect.
And then like, Jussie's there like, okay, so now I'm going to be helping you food prep every evening, every weekend.
Welcome to married life.
And it was like, honestly, we didn't even go out, man. We barely, went, meals or socialized so much and all that sort of stuff. And there was like a running joke in the family, like I'd be the easiest person in the world to cater for, go around the family's house, but I'd take my Tupperware with me because it's like, I need to manage it.
Yeah, you have to.
Again, if I think about it from the education perspective when I was younger, I want to get to the very top. physique, I wanted to take it to the very top. I
Of
represented the UK in the natural bodybuilding time at that time as well.
Perfect.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to take this to the very top. I was the first Indian to do that.
Wow.
And for me, that was a big achievement.
Absolutely.
But what, 4 or 5 years before that, if 4 or 5 years, maybe 3 years, I was going through depression and anxiety, and I was like thinking about ending my life. And then I've come to this point here where I feel like on top of the world.
Yeah, and you're representing.
Yeah,
representing.
100%.
This is where the leadership comes into play, and this is what I was touching upon the podcast that we've done previously. Leadership is so important, and having that leadership in your life and having that management in your life to not self-control, but it's almost like it's goals, isn't it? Goals are so important, and you got to set. And this is what I stress upon with my students here at training. When I say goals, we've all got our big ambitions in life. They're the bigger goals, right? But in between that, you got to have the weekly goals, the little goals. It could be as little as, all right, today my target is for this week I want to read an extra 10 minutes a day. Does that make sense? I want to try and gain a bit more knowledge. It could be little goals, but just ticking that off one by one. And so for you right now, in this period of your life where you just got married, you've got a big goal. It's not a little goal; it's a big goal that you're achieving, and you're on track to. Well,
you know what? I remember a couple of mates. We just went to get some drinks, whatever. Normal store.
Yeah. Of course.
We were just walking around. I picked up a magazine. I was like, I'm going to be on the front of that magazine one day, yeah. And I was on it. It was like a men and fitness or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to be on the front of that magazine. They were laughing at me, and I was like, yeah, but I am. I'm going to be. And literally a few years later, they approached me saying, do you want to be on the magazine cover?
Brilliant.
I'll be honest, I didn't do that at the time because it didn't align to my values. It didn't align to what I wanted to do. But
why was your headspace like? Not your headspace, but why were you thinking it would?
Because I'd shifted, man. It was just at that moment where I was shifting my mindset towards what health and well-being actually is.
Right. Oh, so this was after the bodybuilding period, right? Okay.
Yeah. Because they'd seen bodybuilding, Juggy, and they're like, I like that. That's incredible. But I'd almost shifted in my mindset at that point because. Look, I love that. The bodybuilding world, you know what you've just said there is really powerful. That was my vision. I'd set the vision and I'd said, I'm going to do what I need to do to get to that point. And it wasn't comfortable and it wasn't normal. And it wasn't normal to go to people's houses and say, no, I've got my own food. It wasn't normal to get up at 4 a.m. and do your cardio. It wasn't normal to train 2-3 times a day. Yeah, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
I had a vision and nothing was going to stop me from getting there.
From achieving it. Exactly.
And that, I think, is the thing that instilled so much confidence back into myself after going through what I'd experienced.
Yeah.
So we think about what everybody's experienced in this moment right now.
Yes.
Where it's difficult to set goals because you don't know what the next thing's going to be.
Yeah.
But we can always make it about ourselves. We can change that locus of control from external to internal and decide, well, what's going to move us forwards as individuals.
Yes.
And just as you said there, even if we don't set anything crazy as a goal, if we become objective focused, so we say, okay, this week there's 21 things that I want to do, 3 things a day. Break it down in something super small, simple, something you can tick off, be proud of at the end of the day, and bring an awareness to. Like we've all got that ability.
100%.
Imagine doing that for 7 days, then a month, then 2 months, and then 6 months.
It's going to keep building.
And again, that confidence that comes back with it, that self-esteem that comes back with it.
You feel like you're on top of the world, 100%. Right? You feel like you're out of this life form.
But you think about it, everybody's looking for motivation. Why have we got Instagram? Why have we got all these motivational quotes? Why have we got Twitter and all that sort of stuff? Everyone's looking for motivation. 100%. We are our own motivations. We've got our own power within inside us. Internal power and strength. The resilience of our human body and brain is insane.
Tony Robbins says a real powerful thing, and it's a book that I've read multiple times, Awaken the Giant Within. And I truly, for me, when I was competing, I'd read that because it was from a physical aspect, and I was mentally trying to prepare my physical body to compete. Right. But after competition, I was like, where do I go? And I remember rereading that book again and Awakening with the Giant Within. And it's that everyone's got that giant within them, and it's about, now let's wake up. So everyone listening who's struggling with the mental health, with the depression, all is wake your giant up within, man. Everyone's got it in us. We've all got it, and we've all got the same time
Yeah.
We've all got the same 24 hours. You and me have got the same 24 hours that Barack Obama have got, that all the like Bill Gates have got. We just need to understand how to use that time wisely and manage ourselves with it.
Yeah.
So it's so true with what you're saying. We've all got it.
Yeah.
We're all looking for motivation. It's just time to wake it up.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely,
basically that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's so cool to hear. But so you've achieved. You got to the top with your bodybuilding side of things, and congratulations for that, because to get to that, it's not as easy as just going on stage and posing. People don't understand what goes on behind the scenes. You've explained a tiny percent of really what goes on, right? And I'm not saying I've ever compared it, but we had to do weight cuts for fights, and weight cuts. Anyone that ever weight cuts, you can imagine how disgusting that is for us for a week. These guys have to do it for how many?
I used to always do like 16 to 20 week preps, but I'm going to say this, Matt. You do 16 to 20 week preps, but it was all the work you did. You'd compete 1 year, and then you'd do like a 6 month whatever bulk, whatever it might be. And that was as hard as prepping, because you still got to track everything. You still got to be on top of everything if you want to be good at it.
Absolutely,
and you don't want to look the same as you did last time you cut. So every time you do that,
you want to
after a competition, it's easy for motivation levels to drop, right? But then that's when you got to set that new goal and that new vision and that new thing that you want to move towards. Next time I want bigger lats, or next time I want bigger delts, or I want thicker lats, whatever it might be.
Cool.
And it's like, well, the hard work is all the time prior to that day that you walk out on the stage.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's everything you go through, but you're right in saying as well, and you can back me up by saying this, but because you physically have done that to your body, I bet you left after bodybuilding. I bet you've like, if I can go through that, I can achieve anything I want in life, because going through that, it's only a small percentage of people in the world that can do that, right? That's why not everyone's doing it, and it's so true. So that's why, in my opinion anyway, like I've known you a while now, but in my opinion, that's why I think like with what you're doing with the Indian body coach side of things is shot up so much, because of you as an individual that have put so much, obviously you've put everything into it, but having that mindset from bodybuilding, that discipline, which is key, and that consistency, which I think is super key to apply that in your new venture after bodybuilding. So from bodybuilding, it's a difficult one, because when you're bodybuilding, it is a very, when you're having to look at yourself a lot, it's very egotistical. But what made you go from that to, not that I don't want to do that anymore, but what made you go from that to being like, right, I don't care how I look anymore. I want to look at, I care about everyone else, and I want to become the best coach I possibly can. Not just from a training perspective, but from health, from nutrition. What was that transition time, and why? The most important thing, why?
Do you know what? So I kind of knew it was my time with bodybuilding, because I was getting frustrated by the environment that I was in and the people that I was surrounding myself with. Not in a negative way, but I understood that I just felt like there was more to my life, and what bodybuilding gave me was incredible. But I'll be honest, all of that stuff was already within me. Like, I'd already showed myself that I could be resilient. I'd already showed myself at school that I could be resilient. All the other kids were going out, drinking, messing around. I was at home studying
fair play.
And even like I took that sort of stuff seriously, and I would have notes and all that sort of stuff.
Cool.
So I already had that mindset that I could do this.
Yes.
I took it to bodybuilding, and I showed myself I could do it. I got to a point where Jacob was born. He's my eldest son. He's like,
how old is he now?
He's going to be 6 soon, man, which is, again, time's just flown. But he was born, and I realized that when you're bodybuilding, you're low energy. You may look good, but you're rubbish as a performance person, as a performance athlete. You can't do anything, right? So you're running on fumes. And I was holding him, and I was feeling tired. And I was like, I don't want to feel like this. And I was just rocking him, and I was like, I'm not even here. I don't feel present. He's in my arms, but I don't feel present in this moment. I'm thinking about food. I'm thinking about training. I'm thinking about what do I need to be doing.
These other thoughts going on in your head rather than being with your baby boy.
And do you know what I sat? And again, I don't mind just admitting anything about myself. I sat there on the sofa, and I was just crying one day, and I was like, why am I crying? Why am I so upset? Why am I feeling this way? Because, you know, I've got a good client base at that time. Doing well with my bodybuilding. I've got a wife, got a kid, got everything that I need, but something's not fulfilling me. So that was the moment that I was like, something that needs to change.
Snap. Yeah, it's like a snapping moment.
And again, it comes to that fork in the road, doesn't it?
Of course.
I can carry on doing this because it's bringing me, I can be comfortable here. And I was comfortable. I didn't need to change that way of life. I was comfortable. People like me. I've got a nice place to go to. I work 10 minutes away.
Big client base. Yeah.
And then I'm like, actually, I need to go and explore why I feel unfulfilled right now. I need to go and explore that. And I'm lucky because Jussie was there to push me into it. Yeah. And there was a guy that I knew of and I'd followed for a long time. And going back to social media, that's where the positive side of social media is.
Of course.
I saw his work and I was like, that's what I want to be doing. He's making an impact on the world. He's making an impact on the fitness world. I want to be like that.
Wow.
And I reached out to him and I said, look, I want to come and learn from you. And he said, okay, this is what we'll do. Yeah. And he told me, he was like, well, this is the investment. Yeah. And I balked. I was like, I can't do that. I can't invest in myself. That's like, at the moment, I'm going to say it was $4,000. Yeah.
Wow.
And it was like a 3-month course. And I was like, $4,000, 3 months trying to do all the maths. I was like, I can't do that.
Can't justify it.
Yeah. I've got a kid that could go into a savings. That could go into the mortgage. That could go into a car or whatever it might be.
Yeah, of course.
And Jussie was like, you're crazy if you don't do it.
Wow. She's the one that gave you the put. That's awesome. It's for the reason I say that's wow, because as listeners out there, and I was explaining to you before, we've had some amazing guests here, including yourself, and it's funny you should say that because each guest I've had, they've all said the same thing. They can't have achieved what they've achieved without their partner by their side.
Yeah.
And it's that famous saying that goes, behind every successful man, you got an amazing, successful partner by your side, guide, like holding you and basically pushing you to get on with it almost, isn't it?
Give me that self-belief that I was going to make the most of it.
Yeah.
Because I knew if I'm in that sphere and I'm working with him, I'm not going to fail. But it's all that other stuff in your mind, like guilt.
Yeah.
You know, that guilt of being a dad, guilt of not being able to like put that money elsewhere or whatever it might be. And she was just there like, nah, you got to go for it. And I swear that was the defining moment for me. And I'm going to, do you mind if I share his name? Because
go for it.
A lot to kind of, you know, I feel like I owe him sometimes so much, man.
Go for him, man.
So it was Mark Coles. I reached out to him. We had a conversation. We did all that. And do you know what? The first thing that he made me do was understand my personal values.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Juggy, who are you? I sat there and I stared at him. Yeah. Juggy, who are you? I was like, just like couldn't get my words out.
Yeah.
So we started doing these tasks, going through it. Juggy, who are you? And I started to come up with the definition of who Juggy is.
Yeah.
And then from that moment, why am I so education focused now? Because that's who I am. I want to educate people. Yeah. Why am I so focused on health and well-being? Because that's who I am. I'm health focused. I want to be there for my kids. When I'm 70, 80, I want to be playing around with my grandkids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
like
my
your
did.
Yeah, but did. Exactly.
So so all these things that he extracted out of me at that point, I realized, well, these are the things that will make me feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And it's up to me to go and work on them. So yeah, somebody can shine the light. You can't be dragged there. You've got to, once somebody shine the light on it, you've got to go and get it. And that's 100%. That fork in the road again, man. It keeps coming up.
Yeah, no, there you go. It's that reference point again, that trigger in your head, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's 100%. Amazing. So Mark Coles, wow, that's awesome, man. That's great. So how, if you don't mind me asking, I know you said it was a 3-month course, was it?
Yeah,
Sorry, 3 months.
Yeah. Like that, yeah.
So you've done that. You've learned a hell of a lot about, once again, about you again, because it's all about self-development and all this. And then after that, because obviously, how did it go? Because you had clients. I was one at the time. Yeah. And it's great. Like, this is why I'm so excited to like share this next chapter, because it's so great to see what you've done. But you've done this 3-month course. You've learned so much. You've come back into the world again, or where was the next steps after that, and with your clients and all of that side of things? So what did you do after that?
Do you know what? I just started, so even on social media, I started talking from my heart.
Fair.
Yeah, this is who I am, this is who I help, this is why I want to help them. And I got really, really clear with, well, who do I want to help and how do I want to help them? And what's the system that I'm going to use to help that individual? And obviously every individual that we work with is completely different. They've got their own life experiences. They've come from different backgrounds, whatever it might be. But I thought to myself, how am I going to make this impact on the world? And I got really clear with that I'm going to educate and inspire the community. So how am I going to do that? And that's what I did. I just started talking about, well, this is what I can do for you.
Yeah.
These are the results I can get for you. This is the support I can provide you. And then people started to come knocking on the door.
Amazing.
And then you get results, because again, it's one thing talking a good game, but then you've got to have the results to back it up.
Of course, yeah.
And I've probably, so since that initial kind of shock of, oh, it's $4,000, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Every year, man, I could have bought a house with the amount of money I've put into investing on my education. Yeah, like education, different courses, personal growth, trying to understand myself better.
But linked, don't want to go off topic now, because I want to obviously hear about this. But linked with what you just said about, yes, you could have spent that money elsewhere. And I was listening to another podcast, and it was another Tony Robbins one, and this was a podcast from about 2 years ago, I think it was, and it's with Conor McGregor. And it wasn't your typical Conor McGregor. It's your Conor McGregor where he's talking about self-discipline, self-help, and self-investment. And he learned a lot from LeBron James, where, you know, how he's looking after himself. And it's important that we work, society nowadays, we work so hard. Everyone's working hard to achieve things left, right, and center, but they forget about themselves. And it's important that you educate yourselves, which is more important. You self-develop yourself, and that goes with both psychologically, with your you know, studying and everything, but more so as well with your body as well. Yeah. So what like I know, there's a lot of people out there, they won't fork out £30 to go and get a body massage done, or they won't fork out, like, you know, £20 to go and get like a quick chiropractor appointment, which things like that are very important. We all need in our lives, because £20 that they can't afford to get a quick crack and, you know, all of that, but they can afford £20 to spend on a takeaway, and all of a sudden they haven't got the money to looking after themselves help. So I know what you're relating to, and you're saying, yes, I could have brought this, I could have brought a house and this and this, but I think what you invested in, which is yourself, is far more important than house. I know that sounds silly.
Yeah, of course, man.
I bet it might be different circumstances, because I know you got kids and everything to think of, but I think what you did is such a smart thing and a sensible thing, man.
The way that I see it is, again, if I'm invested in me, I'm not holding that information in here and holding on to it, being really like closed off. Yeah. Literally, if you go on my social media, go on the Indian Body Coach, Instagram, whatever, it's every single post, information, education. This is what I learned. Do this, do that. And I've had messages where people are like, I've just followed your work online, and I've completely transformed my body, my health, my mind, and all that sort of stuff. Wow. And I'm like, imagine what would happen if you came and worked with us. There's always that laugh and a joke, but at the same time, the reason I'm doing that is because I want the community to grow. I want people to understand how they can take control of their own health and their own well-being, and stop doing it in these dumb ways. You know, like, stop doing these dumb things. And what I mean by this, and I don't want to sound like I'm talking down to anyone.
Of course.
But health is not like a one-dimensional thing or a two-dimensional thing. Health is a three-dimensional thing.
Okay.
So your health and your well-being is not just a nutrition plan, and it's not just a training plan. It's your mind, so psychological. It's your body, so physiologically. And again, physically. Like, what can your body do right now? Can you move? Are you in pain when you wake up in the morning? You know, every single morning you're getting that lower back pain and your knees clicking. So physically, how is your body feeling? Mentally, if you're not in a good place mentally, what choices are you going to make? If you're stressed and you're feeling emotional, are you going to be drinking water, or are you going to be drinking 5 coffees to get through the day and then having a glass of wine before you go to bed just so you can get to sleep? Okay, so all of the things stem back from psychologically, how are you feeling?
Yes.
So this is when I create the system, the health triad system: physical, physiological, and psychological. Right. You get all three in alignment. You transform your whole life. I'm not just talking you got abs all of a sudden. Because who needs abs? You want to be able to run after your kids. You want to be able to get up the stairs and not feel out of breath. You want to be sitting there in a meeting and be able to contribute because you can concentrate.
And you can think clearly as well.
You sit there on the weekend and be present in that moment and feel okay with things that are going on outside, and you feel good within yourself.
100%.
Like, this is my mindset towards health. You got to get it off Instagram, comparing your body from yourself to this model over there or this physique guy over there, and just be happy within yourself,
within the present. But be happy with the present you, and it's so important. Linked with your body coach side of things, I know we just touched upon your mind, the physiology, and the physical, right? But linked with all of that, do you guide people and your clients, shall I say, in making certain life decisions? And what I mean by that is a stupid thing, right? I was talking to a very good friend of mine, and we were talking about his habits and his habits of waking up in the morning. First thing you do when you wake up. And he said, wake up, sleep in his eyes. First thing he'll do, Facebook, and then he'll go on to Daily Mail.
Yeah.
So straight away, by reading the negative media from Daily Mail, which is negative, all of a sudden, he's now got a negative frame of mind. So he's waking up, getting on with his day with a negative frame of mind. That's the first thing he's done. Does that make sense? And something like he's great, like obviously hearing his stories. And then we were just discussing about being thankful and gratitude. So rather than getting out these, the way he got out of the habits was rather than getting his phone and looking at the Daily Mail or on Facebook, woke up, sit on the side of his bed and think of two things that you're grateful for.
Yeah.
And you're thankful for. And it could be as little as I managed to open my eyes today.
Yeah.
And it could be as big as I'm so thankful for my kids. Like my wife's here. Does that make sense? It could be just anything. But all of a sudden, by thinking like that, boom, you've started your day on a high, a positive, and you're ready to move on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And is that how you're guiding your clients as well? Almost as
so. Part of the process when somebody joins us is obviously we've got psychologists on board as part of our team. We've got like injury rehab specialists, nutritionists, like personal trainers, and we've got a whole network of specialists in each field.
Wow.
Not everybody needs all these different elements, but if you're going to come into the journey, it makes sense to understand yourself first.
Yes.
So most people right now, how well do they sleep? People aren't sleeping through the night. They wake up in the night, they're too stressed, they're wired, they can't go back to sleep. Or they're going to the toilet 2 or 3 times a night and think that's normal. Yeah, that's not normal. We need to fix that okay, so how do we fix that? Do we fix that with a pill? Do we fix that with a diet? No, we understand, well, what's driving the stressor? That's where they'll come in and say, like you've just said there, well, what are your inputs every day? So if all of your inputs, so the things you listen to, the things you read, things you watch, if all of those inputs are driving that mindset, how is that going to help you progress and get out of that hole? Okay, so what books are you reading? What podcasts are you listening to? I'll be listening to Pindi's podcast.
Yes, thank you. Cheers.
Think about it. If all these different inputs, if you change them and you switch them, the conversations are different. And one of the things that I wrote this down earlier, there's people in your circle or people in your household even that don't want to see you do well. There's going to be people that don't want to see you do well. But you've got the control as to whether you listen to that noise and let that noise in.
Affect you. True.
So if you change the inputs, then you change everything that you feel about yourself. So then your self-esteem changes. So for example, if you see yourself as a healthy and fit individual, what do healthy and fit individuals do? Do they sit there eating pizzas at lunchtime and drinking beer?
No.
Probably not.
No, of course.
But if you start to see yourself and you've got that self-esteem has come up and that self-confidence has come up and that belief within yourself has come up, well, suddenly you start to act like somebody that you want to be. Okay, so then we stop using words like, I've got a goal that I want to be X. And we start using words like, I am X and this is what I do.
Makes sense.
It changes. You've got to change that.
It's that same mindset, like from what I'm understanding, listening to you, it's that same mindset of having. Remember, it's a business quote I read years and years ago. Surround yourselves with the influences around you with what you want to become. So, like, I know this sounds really silly to say, but it's almost like you're not doing it, but I remember I used to do little things like this, fake it till you make it type of thing, because I wanted to be so, from a competitive point of view, I wanted to be the best I possibly could. From a working point of view, from the business point of view, I wanted to be the best you possibly could. And there's certain things I wanted in life that you want to achieve, so I was faking it till you're making it, basically. And it's the same, I'm not saying everyone needs to do that, but what you're saying is that to become X, Y, and Z and a healthy version of yourself, you need to start believing that you are. Does that make sense? And believe in yourself. And it comes back to what you just said earlier. Wake yourself up. Wake that giant within you. And then boom, and here you are.
Bro, if you align all of your actions to your highest values, then you're probably not going to be doing the things that you're probably doing today.
Very, very true.
So if you say my highest values are education, health and fitness and well-being, and being a really, really good dad and being a really good business owner, those types of people don't, ruin or waste their time and waste their energy on conversations that don't matter.
Yes.
They don't gossip about people. They don't do these silly little things like reading the Daily Mail, for example.
Watching Coronation Street on a Friday night.
100%. And I think that's the mindset we've got to get into. So, when it comes to the way we coach, so we look at all that. So before we create a program for somebody, we're looking at all these different elements of how they're currently setting themselves up. And this is why we need specialists. So some people might be like, I love exercise, but actually I haven't been able to exercise for 12 months because of a chronic pain. There's a guy that we just posted about recently, 50 years old. He's had a chronic shoulder injury for I think it's about 5-10 years. That set him into a rut. That put him into a complete and utter rut. That changed the way he thought about himself. He started eating. He started drinking too much. He wouldn't go out and exercise. He felt low in confidence. He wouldn't go on holidays with his mates and stuff like that. He's worked with us for 6 months. We fixed that chronic pain. We worked on his mindset. So we spoke to our psychology team, got a bit of an insight in terms of, well, why are you doing what you're doing? Yeah. So you go backwards before you go forwards. Then he can start training again. Then he can start asking me, Juggy, how quickly can I run my 5K? And then we start putting in programming specifically around that sort of stuff. And now he's just had a grandkid and he's like, now I feel good and fit and healthy.
That's amazing.
So you see how everything's got to come. You can't just fix one thing and hope that's going to fix everything.
Yeah.
You got to go right back, take the steps back.
Basically strip it right back to basics.
100%.
Right back to basics and find out the inner self, basically.
But we can all do that. And I think that's so crucial to understand, especially with the amount of time that we've been afforded.
100%. Linked with that, I don't know who quoted this, but at the beginning of lockdown in March last year in 2020, there was a saying that said, if you don't come out of this lockdown by changing yourself by learning new, when I say learning new, I mean like learn new things, by using your time wisely and achieving bigger things, and maybe even starting a new business or something, then time was never the problem. It's you as an individual, isn't it? Time's never, that saying goes, I haven't got time for this. It's never the problem. And that refers back to what I was just saying earlier. We've all got the same 24 hours that everyone else has. It's about how we manage it and use it correctly, right? So like you just said, we've all got it in us. It's just whether or not we really want to.
Oh man,
does that make sense?
No, as you say it, it reminds me of one of my clients. Her name's Meenal Viz. She's a doctor.
Okay.
So during the first lockdown, she was pregnant. And she was working on the front line, right?
Yeah.
There was a whole thing about, protesting because there was no PPE and stuff for them.
Yeah.
And they worked in the hospital.
Yeah, of course.
So she went and campaigned outside Downing Street and brought up a case against the government, right? Because of everything that was going on and the politics with the NHS. So she brought a case against the government whilst pregnant. She gave birth and she still continued to fight that case. Yeah. Wow. And then she joined us and she lost all this, kind of body fat that she gained. She regained her health, her energy and all that sort of stuff. She's doing all these different things. And it's like, well, how do you get the time? Oh, I'm on Piers Morgan this morning. I'm going to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And all that sort of stuff. I'm on this, she's in Vogue. I'm like, how do you find the time? You make time. Like, you're a mother, you've just given birth, you make time. And how did she lose all that weight? It wasn't these massive changes we made. No. It was okay, you got 10 minutes of your day, let's use it wisely. Yeah, the kids, the little one's still asleep, let's use this time wisely. Let's not do all these low priority tasks that are taken away from you and do the high priority things that give back to you, so you don't have to think about all the lower priority ones,
It's so true.
Time. It's what we make of it.
It's so true. That's inspiring to hear. That's boosted me up. That's boosted me up. Wow. That's absolutely amazing. So Juggy, for the listeners out there that obviously watching at home and listening at home, for them to make a change in their lives, them to make a positive impact in their lives, and they go onto your page, they get in contact with yourself. Like, if there's anyone struggling, like what advice step by step would you give them? Because, like I said, there's a lot of people out there. Not everyone, a small percentage of people out there that are struggling right now, and they need that extra, in a polite way of putting a kick up the backside to get going. What advice would you give them to move forward and look ahead?
I think it come back to that fork in the road.
I love that analogy. But
ask yourself, the actions that you're currently taking, where are they going to lead you?
Yeah.
Okay, so is that the direction you truly want to head in? Like, get really clear. Like, just spend that time, because unfortunately we spend our time like, earphones in or loads of different things going on around us. Go and spend some quality time with yourself. Yeah. Go to your bedroom. Don't do anything dodgy. Go to your bedroom and just brainstorm. Just sit there with a pen and paper and write. Yeah. Get really used to just writing down your thoughts and your feelings and your beliefs.
Yeah.
From that, you'll start to understand what actually matters to you in life.
Mm-hmm.
And then put the fork in the road, draw it out, and say, well, this is where my current actions are leading me towards, and this is where I want to get to. And then start to set the small daily objectives that are going to get you there.
Yeah.
So break it right down to the basics. What time do you need to wake up? What time do you need to go to bed?
Yeah.
What sort of courses do you need to do? What sort of books do you need to read? Who do you need to surround yourself with?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That Mark Coles, I didn't have any friendship with him before I spoke to him, but I thought that's somebody that I want to emulate. Let me go and surround myself by that person.
Absolutely. There you go. And it comes back to surround yourselves with it.
100%.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
do you know what? I have to say this, like, invest in yourself and take away the fear of investing in yourself, because if you do it properly and if you do it in the right way, it's going to come back to you.
And linked with that, do it in the correct way, like in the right way. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of, don't mind me saying, there's a lot of guinea pigs out there that will say, oh, give us X amount and you'll become. Yeah. So make sure, guys, you do it in the right way. Look at how Juggy did it. He did his research. He looked at everything and he did it the right way. And because he did it in the correct way, look where he is today. Yeah. So please, guys, to take anything, take all of that on board. You've got to do it in the correct way. Linked with all of that, you've been super busy during the whole pandemic as well. With doing things online. How have you found your experiences with the pandemic? Like, you've been at home. It's on one side of things, it's such a blessing with being with your family. It's time that you're never going to get back again, being with the family. But have you personally found it? Have you found it with your clients? Because I'm sure you've been in contact with them all as well.
Yeah.
How is it? What's your experience with all of that?
So from a personal perspective, this is my life. I love doing what I do, right? I don't feel like I'm lacking in any way. And there was a conversation I had with my client recently, and she was like, oh, how are you feeling? And I was like, nobody ever asked me that, but thanks for asking. But I feel content and I feel happy because, again, I'm working towards my highest values every day.
Absolutely.
It's not been nice not being able to see my parents as much as I want to, not being able to see my brother. He had a baby during the lockdown.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
man. And I've barely been able to spend time. I've just seen them online.
Yeah.
But I feel content because, again, I'm doing what I need to do for the people that I need to do it for. And I've always got that mindset that whatever's happening now isn't forever.
Yes.
So that was my thought process towards the whole kind of lockdown and all that situation. And I'm going to share this because I find this a bit like annoying, and I just want to share.
Yeah, go for it.
People saying, oh, I've had my first birthday in lockdown. I've had my second birthday in lockdown. I'm like, you've had your birthdays in lockdown. Enjoy it. Like, you're here.
Yeah, man.
You've got a life to live.
Absolutely, 100%.
But that's been my mindset towards it. And some of my clients have had ups and downs. They're experiencing that kind of social anxiety. So even when they do go out, there's that fear. They're struggling about how they're going to adapt going back to normal life afterwards. And there has been difficulties like Jussie as well, having, we've got 2 kids at home, 5 and 2. Trying to homeschool a 5-year-old was brutal. Okay. But it's one of those things like we've got to make the most of it and take the pressure off sometimes.
Of course.
But it hasn't been easy. But at the same time, when you've got that mindset, you can shift from one thought to another and understand that everything's temporary.
Exactly.
Like, even
it's not going to last.
Yeah. And I think, like clients as well, they've had a lot of work pressures. I've never seen it like this before, but it's like a Zoom call from the moment you wake up. From 8 a.m. to like 9 p.m.
It's mad.
And it's like, well, when do you actually do the work? Because you're literally on one meeting after another.
Next. Yeah.
So I think that's been some difficulties. But, we've been doing some work with some corporate businesses to give them a bit of an idea about how to manage stress better, how to change certain things. Like, we have standing desks and stuff like that, giving them advice around that sort of stuff. And it's like, it's always the small percentages that you can bring to your day that will make the most the biggest difference.
Absolutely.
You know, get out there, get some sunlight, go and breathe.
Oh, 100%. So important. And that's something that like even me and Raj have been doing. Like, it's so good. Like, I know this sounds this is gonna make me sound old now, but I remember being a kid and you used to hear like neighbors or such said, "Oh, we're gonna go for a walk," and I'd be like, "Okay, a walk,
A walk.
wow, you know, you're living life to the max." But you know what? I look forward to our walks. Now they are absolutely amazing. I kind of find it like meditation. I know that sounds really weird to say, but when you're walking, like with the dog or with, if it's with Raj, but when you walk, we're communicating. But when it's like, wow. And before you know it, we've walked like, you know, like 6-7 miles, and it's like, oh, well, where's that time gone? Does that make sense? And it's like, it's so good, guys. Just get out there, let the wind hit you. Do you get what I mean? Just do it.
And if it rains, put a raincoat on.
There you go. Put a hat on. Job done. Do you know what I mean? It's not the end of the world, man. I love running in the rain, man. It's great. It's a great energy you get from it, man. But Juggy, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. Guys, you guys listening, you got to follow Juggy online because you get inspired all the time. Like I know this sounds really corny to say, but like I love the amount of time that you give to your family, because I know it comes back to time again as well. And a lot of people out there saying, "Oh, I don't have time. I don't have time to go and play a little 10-minute football match with my kids. I haven't got time to take my kid and the dog for a walk or anything like that." I hate those excuses with a passion. The fact that you put it on your social media and it's there, the kids, you're having such a laugh with them. Do you go and the dog? Do you know what I mean? It's great. Do you know what I mean? And absolutely love it, guys. So please give him a follow if you don't already. Juggy, where can the audience find you on social media platforms?
Type in Indian Body Coach on pretty much every platform.
On every platform. There you go. No, absolutely, guys. No, so I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I more importantly, learned something from it. If you want to know more, please do visit the Indian Body Coach. There's tons of information on there. And like I said, just give this guy a message as well. But Juggy, thank you so much again. It's been an absolute pleasure. Man. Thank you.